This is my 1982 Honda Civic Wagon. It's been through several iterations of low. It has McPherson front end and used to have leaf springs in the back. I originally had DC2 shocks in the front and blocks in the rear, and then I found that BC makes a set of front coilovers for it, so it's sitting on the BCs in the front. And then I spent kind of a long time four-linking and bagging the rear of this. So this is on air in the back, but that leaves me with aired out and a little bit of wheel gap here, and ideally this will come down too. So what I've snagged through bag riders are these double bellow coilover conversion by Vera. I'm sure it's just Alibaba stuff repackaged, but they've done all the measurements to make sure that the threads and stuff match the BC coilovers. And there they are. So the intention today, if I can figure it out, is to get the BC coilovers off and replace the spring setup on them with these bags. I got to figure out how the McPherson top hat goes on here. I don't really have a plan for that. And then get airlines to these and get them hooked up to the management, and hopefully be able to air out the front in the same way as the back does. Get rid of that little bit of wheel gap. That's what I've got going on today. Something else I hope to address is this CV boot is just annihilated and it's making a mess of everything. So I've got new axles here too. Hopefully those are not too big of a deal. I think these come off and they should just pull out. I don't know, we'll see. And I think I just take these off. Looks like I got a little spacer. Most of this is gonna be like remembering what I did. These didn't ship with the top hats. I had to kind of reuse stuff and come up with a solution. So take this shit apart, I guess. I gotta remember the order here. Big ass nut. Sleeve. All right. I think this should be able to get in the back here and help this spread. Okay, that all makes sense, but I'm not certain how is this gonna sit on top of here. If that sits like that. Just like that. It's almost like this top ring should be cut so that it's flat. I don't really want to cut it. I had a couple realizations. One, I should thread this all the way up so that this is as low as possible. So I will do that before I put these on. The other thing that I don't like, my first proper roadblock, I want to use these leader lines on the front just in case there's rubbing or anything like that. These are a little bit more robust and maybe last a little longer, hold up a little better. What I'm seeing is that these clearly do not fit, and so I guess these would work. You know, it looks like it's this style, and then this would go on. Maybe, potentially. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass. Actually, it's a pretty big pain in the ass, I'll be honest, especially if you had to thread this with the line running all the way to the management. That seems like it sucks. So I want to take those and get rid of them and be able to run these. So I guess I need an adapter to go from whatever size this is to 1/4 inch. I don't have that. The other thing, I don't see that they sent me lubricant for the O-rings, so I won't be able to seal here where the O-ring sits. And I won't be able to seal here where the O-ring sits down inside of here. So two things, I'm gonna have to put the project on hold while I go order stuff on the internet and wait. Always frustrating to have to do that, but it's an is what it is scenario. So I've got an order in with Jeff Bezos to bring me some air ride stuff. In the meantime, I do want to take these axles out, so I'm gonna try to see if I can figure that out. I don't think you're supposed to use this style of socket with an air impact, but that's what I've got, so that's what I'm doing. guess I'd like to see these axles. See if maybe they come with their own axle nut. Maybe I can get a little bit more violent with that one. Yes, they do. All right. Oh, that's a quality looking product. Cool. Yeah. All right, so maybe I can get a little bit more aggressive. I'd like to see this one too while I'm at it. Caution, center C-clip on inboard housing with grease. One on each side, cool. All right. I'm hoping I can get the axle out without having to separate that lower ball joint. I think I'll be able to get it out. Not sure if I'll be able to get the new one in. Maybe. Just get that ready to catch gear oil. Separated, no big deal. Okay, and this is the short one. Just out of curiosity, they did send one. Looks like just put it on there, right? Can't tell if that's in there or not. Yes, it is. Let's see if I can get this installed without breaking anything. How about that? Manual said don't use that. Need somebody to stand on the brakes. So I'll wait for help and then tighten that down. And in the meantime, I guess I can work on the other side, getting that second coilover off and change that axle. This axle is nasty. Gotta have my tools. This side is so nasty. All right, those are out. Drop this down a little. Let's see if we can't get this to pry the coilover out. Can't see it, but there's a gap on the back. And I'm really just trying to widen that. If I get this to come down far enough, I might be able to get a hammer on it. Ouch. Might be able to get a hammer on it. Okay. I was thinking about this, and I think what I'm going to do for maximum low is run these up and then just thread these in until they bottom out, and then let the bags control how tall it is or whatever. I'll leave them at that for now, but I think when I actually get there, because I still have to wait on O-ring seal stuff and whatever, but I think that's going to be the plan. Let's see what a nightmare that axle has left. Yeah, it's gross. Don't ever tell me my car is clean. Let's see if I can't make a little bit of progress on this. I'd like to get that axle out of there. Oh yeah, that comes with a new one. There's no need to be shy about it. What the fuck, man? Give it up. We're gonna sweat. Well, I'm running out of ideas here. I guess I could cut it off. Oh, Jesus. You bastard. Good Lord. Should I be concerned that no transmission fluid's coming out? I don't know how much you're going to be able to see. I might be a little bit just doing this for me. This is the axle going into the transmission here. Spline's lined up. There we go, snapped in. Yeah, all right. All right, that's both axles. So I think what I'll do now, I gotta wait for a partner to hold the brakes so I can tighten these properly. And I'm waiting on Jeff Bezos to deliver some things here, namely new fittings here so that I can run these larger leader lines, and O-ring grease so that I can actually seal the bags on. So I think what I'll do is spend a little time with these and try to get as much of that axle grease off of this setup, but that's boring and you don't need to watch that, so I'll just skip, and hopefully I can pick back up once the couple of parts have arrived for this setup. I'll spend a little time cleaning this too. So more pieces of the puzzle. I got these adapters, but I've bumped into a problem with them where I've already broken these loose and taken them out, and trying to thread these in, they don't. And it looks like the fittings that came with it are actually two different sizes. Like, here, I'll show you what I mean. This side does thread in, no big deal. But if you turn it around and use these threads, it will go and then stop. And that's because this is NPT 1/8 inch, which is what I have. And this side, the side that threads in, is BSP. It's British Standard Pipe. So I am waiting around some more. So I've ordered again, but 1/4 inch NPT for this on this side, and then 1/8 inch BSP so I can actually thread it into the bags. So still in a holding pattern on that, but I also did have O-ring lubricant show up, so I should be able to at least put these on the coilovers. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time cleaning these up, getting the surface ready to situate an O-ring. Peel the sticker off. I call that good enough. Give myself a nice clean surface here and see about getting these things on there. Now, around here. I'm curious if I can get to the seal in here. I think I will. Yes, I can, so I'll hit this a little bit too. So that makes a nice seal. And then drop these down and thread them on. It's cool. I think I'll set these aside for a second. We'll see if I can't figure out this top hat situation. Looks like that just sits right down on it. I really wish this was less crusty. I don't know how that much grime got in there in the first place. Ugh. I'm wondering if I should just brake clean the entire thing and re-lubricate it. You still hear the grit. All right, I'm gonna clean these off completely. So I think I'll just do that. All right, I'm happier with this. It's not perfect, but it's gonna be better than just having slapped it back in there as is. I'm trying to pack some grease into these roller bearings. Just trying to force some through, something like that, you know. Then what I've settled on is on one side down, but then slap it on there. And then there's a ring that goes around, and that's what I'm calling a top hat. Like that, smoother sounding, right? Yeah, I think it's okay. Put it on there. I'll see if I can't do that again. Feeling better about that. So this will go like that. Sit down on that. A little bit of grime, but it's clearly much better. All right, let's pack some grease into this bearing. That's what you get. Interesting. Nothing securing that anywhere. All right, well, that's curious. So there they are, pretty much. That sits on that. Jeez, man, I don't know. I guess they're ready, though. Just doing a brief dumb measurement about the height. This is the spring, and that's about the same height as the bag, not including this piece here, the sleeve or collar or whatever. So I should run the bottom up to compensate for that amount. I think I might just run them all the way up and see what happens. I'm trying to get low. Why do anything other than just start out low? So let's thread this all the way up. Let's see how much. They're damn near bottomed out as is. All right, so that's a pretty good starting point then, just as low as possible. Lock that collar on there. And I'll do the same here one more time. Jeez, man, that was like half a turn. Okay, something like that. That'll be my starting point for getting low. A couple of Jeffrey Bezos specials here. Are they gonna do what I want them to do? Looks like they do thread onto there. Now, we have a winner. So I'll thread them in there, and then I'm gonna use thread sealant by Loctite. So I'm gonna put a little bit of this on each one. Nice bead all the way around. Not too tight. And I'll let those sit and cure overnight. I'll do the same with these, but I'll do that later once I have the intended destination sorted out a little bit better. But that's that for now. It's the next day. These should be cured. I'm gonna put them on there and see what happens. So let's see if this one will go on. Let's see if we can spread this a little bit. Here we go. I'm just gonna raise the jack up. My bag solution's in the hole. Let's see if that works. I don't really feel great about that. It's only some of the threads. I expect the bag to be compressing too, and it really isn't. Pretty much the entire weight of the car on the bag. Not sure about that. Not real hyped on it anyway. If that's aired out, then this is not good. I don't really see that I'm missing anything either. See if I shorten that top hat situation, will it get me a little bit more low? I think it will. I think temporarily I want to see this thing with the wheels on. I guess the other side's gonna have to happen first. Well, get them both on there and then set it on the ground. And if it's no dice, I'll have to trim off this section here. It'll be a pain in the ass. This side's got a washer. I noticed the other side's missing. I have almost no threads here, so I'm gonna have to find that washer. But if I don't use it, it gives me a little bit more thread. That's not gonna work, just not enough threads. And what I wanna do is put these wheels on, set it on the ground, and see what does it look like aired out. If it's not low, it's not good enough. I'll have to come up with a new plan. What I'm hoping is that the weight of the car will make those bags compress a lot more than I was able to do with the jack. So now I'll set down the weight of the car and see if those bags air out. Fingers crossed. Okay, completely aired out, and it's taller than it was with coils. Fuck. Axle's not bottomed out on this side. That's not the holdup. And there's room for the axle on this side as well. Even if I cut that top hat, that's still like that much. That's not enough. It's just not enough. The coilover has to get shorter or something. A friend of mine who's pretty cool despite his disability said to take the bags and the springs off and put the shocks back on and see where they should sit without anything in the way. I'm gonna do that. That makes sense. And also I think it'd be fun to just see what that would look like. One thing I can try before I do that is use the borescope and check what happens with the bag when it airs out. I was under the impression that it wasn't enough weight to collapse the bag, but I can see if it's compressing correctly. Kind of looks compressed. I guess it is. So if the bag is fully compressed, then my strut is just too long. I'm gonna try installing it without the bagger spring to see where's the car sit. That would verify that the car is capable of getting that low.
Great things to come.
Looking this over now, and all this stuff sits on top of that. I don't know how to make this shorter. Probably just cut this completely off. I don't think that's gonna be enough to make a real difference. I think the bag itself is a problem. Might be back in the R&D phase on this thing. Spent a lot of time looking and bullshitting and talking about these bags and what's wrong with them, and the issue is the thickness of this bracket here. This has to sit on top of this, which means that it doesn't have a choice but to be there. So you have this thickness above that. Then this sits on top, further pushing all this shit higher. That's what's extending this so much. That's what's making my shock so tall. But I got these universal airs and they sit much lower, which means that if I put all this crap on top, this bearing is actually sitting on here, and that'll put this whole thing this much lower rather than this, which is huge. So these are done. I'm not having them, and I'm confused as to why anybody would. You can go lower with springs than these completely aired out. So no thank you to these, and I'm gonna try working with these Universal Air Aero Sport, I think these are, and a sleeve and a nut on top, something like that, I think is kind of where I'm headed, and so that's what I'm gonna work on now. I'm using a universal air setup on the BC coil, and it's got some problems. I've got this gap here, which is one of the problems. This gap has got to go, and then the bag diameter makes it so that it impacts the shock tower. Looks pretty close there, but it actually does make contact, so that's no good. If my plan for getting the shock to be smaller works, then I'll cut that little section out and weld in a little cover. But first I need to pull these off and see if I can't get them to be shorter. So let's get to that today. The bag is bottoming out against the perch, but if the shock itself can compress more, the entire bag could move lower, and that would allow the whole thing to compress more. From here to there would be shorter. The issues I have is it's bottomed out against the perch, so I have to cut the perch off, is what I was thinking. However, I found these coilovers lent by a friend of mine. I think I might be able to cannibalize the perch, and that would be really cool to make this easy. Basically just put these on, that gets me that much more low. So slap these on if they fit, thread the bags down until they hit, and that'll give me another inch or so at least. Same threads? Nope. Fuck. Son of a bitch. That would have been so easy. Well, fuck. So then I'm back to cut these, which at this point is damn close to just making something from scratch, like a drop-in insert. But let's get on with it. All right, this is a little hard to tell what's going on, but I've got the bag in the vise and I'm compressing it, and the bag will sit flush with this ring that's inside. And so what I should be able to do is thread this perch down by that much and thread the whole bag down that much as well. But then I'm gonna have to cut this in order to put it back on and have it be shorter. This has got to bottom out on this shock in order for this to work. I'm definitely nervous about cutting the threads and being able to thread this back on, but I don't really know what other solution there is here, and I do think this is gonna work. So I'm gonna put a work in on trying to get those measurements sorted. The scary part's gonna be cutting this perch. I think that's what you get. Interesting, the threads don't go to the bottom. So it's not bottoming out on this. It's bottoming out on the threads in there. Well, that's a further complication. I've noticed that the threads inside don't go to the bottom. They leave a little space. How much space? About 2 inches. So I could cut out 2 inches and weld the bottom perch back on. That would make this entire setup shorter by that much. Kind of leaning towards it. Cut again, and then weld this bottom part back on, but higher. And that would get me a shorter assembly, which doesn't solve the rubbing issue, but it does solve the height issue. So if I did that, then cut the strut tower to make room for that bag. I'm gonna think about that before actually committing to it. Been pondering this idea for a little while now. I think I've got a solution. What I'm going to do is thread the bags lower. There's a section here of knot threads. I'm going to cut that out to shorten these, and then I'm going to machine a little bit of this off, and hopefully all those things will make enough clearance.
A lot of boring math later.
Been a little while since I messed with these. Here's what I've got. Took that section out and also shaved off some of the mount for the bag. So hopefully that'll give me a little more clearance too. So I'm just going to put this stuff together and see if I've shortened these. What I want to see is these go on and the top of this metal ring here be flush with the top of that, I think. I can feel that that metal is flush with the top of the strut. There's the next iteration of this puzzle. Here they are with this section cut out, and these are flush with the top of the shock. Now I just need to figure out a top hat solution. It's gonna be something like that, but I'll change this piece out so that it actually bolts to the air shock and sits up flush with it like that. So I've already got some measurements kind of made out. I know the diameters and whatnot. I just need to know this measurement here, and now I can do that, I think. So that's what I'll do next, and then cut something that fits. All right, I'm taking some measurements here, putting them into send, cut, send, checking to verify I've got things right. I've got the pieces ordered. This will be the part that sits on the base. Then I'll get some 2-inch pipe to come up and attach to this one, which will sit right around this ring, and then this will sit right down on top like that. Okay, so we'll place this order and get these pieces all welded together. Here's what it looks like, kinda. Got the base here, a little piece of pipe on top, and then the top hat here. Then this whole bearing can sit down on top of that, like that. But now I need to weld these together. This is 316 stainless, which is different than the mild steel I've been using. So I've got some 316 filler here. Need to set up the welder for that instead of this. You're supposed to have 3 parts gas. I only have 2, but I'm just gonna run with that. So I'll set this up and then see if I can't weld these top hats. Hopefully that should be enough BS to put these on the car. All right, got my reel changed, spooling it through. All right, there we have it. And then a MIG stainless. That's all there is to it. I'll set my thickness and then I'm ready to weld. So cool. Top hats more or less. So now I should be able to bolt these on here. So this one gets one. Oh, that could be cleaner. right. Then each one gets a little bearing on the top, just like that, and just like that. That's all there is to it. They get one of these, then they go on the car. You know? Something like that. I'm having a notch right here. This has got to come out so the axle can have somewhere to go. Something like that. I think we're probably good. I'll hit it with a little bit of steel it. Yeah, you know, shit like that. So I got the wheel bolted on now, and I'm using a little spacer to push this out. I'm gonna try to put this on and see if it clears this wheel. And I'm gonna do that without the camera here because this is really obnoxious. So a little change of plans. I backed out a little bit because I remembered this lip sticks out. I think I can just grind this off enough to get enough clearance. So I'm gonna do that now. Okay. I don't think this will go on all the way, but it will be pretty close. Maybe I should use a shorter sleeve once I get there though. Yeah, that should be all the way to the top. So I'll shorten this sleeve one way or another on both sides. Getting exciting. It's a moment of truth type situation here. Can't wait to air this thing out and see. That's clear. Nice. So this is what I've got now. Let's see if I can't get it to kind of sit down past that fender. Plenty of clearance. That's not the holdup. I think the holdup is literally the edge of the tire here. Now it's tucking. It's just that much left. Damn. Well, so here's kind of what I've got with the wheel gap that I have. Kind of a bummer. I wanted much less. Got over a 1/2 inch of gap here. Not really sure how to cheese much more out of that though. And it is similar to how it sits in the back. Don't look too close at this, but yeah, you know, I mean, I guess it's not that far off. Just got a little bit more in the front. Ugh. Tired of working on this, so I think it's gonna have to be good enough. I just need to sort out the driver's side. I'm gonna leave it like this and move on. I'm really struggling to figure out how to get rid of that last little bit there. If you have any ideas, let me know. This is the setup. But I think the shock itself is really the problem. I could maybe shorten this rubber piece somehow. That would get a little bit less, but I think the modification would have to be in this, and the rest of the setup is going to be the same either way. So I'm going to move on to just get some progress going with the car. And if I think of something, then these can come off and get modified again. But that's going to be height in the front. Passenger side. Driver's side, I've got a little bit more to notch out. This actually has a little bit more structure to it, so I'm going to have to notch and then weld in a little support. So that's what I'm going to do. I guess now. I'll start doing that now. notch. It's pretty ugly, so I'm gonna clean that up and weld something over there to seal up that hole and give a little bit more structure. I'll sand this off a little and make something that looks like it fits there. This is my final answer, I think, on the notch. Just smoothed it up a little bit, try to make it so there's nothing that'll hurt your hand. Not perfect, but I think that that should be enough room. You can see this is the weak spot back here. It's hard to get to, and so I think I've got enough. And all I need to do now is cut a piece of metal that's this shape here and get it welded in place to seal this up. And that'll be my solution on this side. It's all right. All right, now I'll just use some cardboard design here, get some CAD going, and see if I can figure out the shape. Yeah, something like that, you know? So about like that. That's the same shape pretty much. Got a little curve to it. Looks like it goes up like this, probably. I think I can tell that our shape goes like this, kinda. Yeah, so that's generally the shape I want right there. You know, something like that. All right. Let's see if we can't figure out how to cut this shape. I might cut it out of this scrap bullshit here. Something like that. Yeah, we'll kind of roll with it and make some modifications. I don't know what you can or can't see. This can all go, pretty much. Fuck it. I'm getting the fuck it kind of vibe here. Just stick it on there and call it a day. Yeah, fuck it. All right, welder's set up, and I got the piece here, ready to put this on, tack it in place, and spray it with some Steel-It. So let's get that welded on. Let that cool off, but I'm impatient. It's ugly as shit. I'm hitting it with the Steel-It though, which will hide all the imperfections, of which there are plenty. Yeah, lovely. So let that do its thing, and there's a frame notch. Oh, fuck. Quite ugly, but notched. I had the best results on this side with taking the collar off completely and burying the bag into the mount. So that's what I'm gonna do on the driver's side. Slap that other top hat on there. Gosh, I hope this works. And if it does, then I'm up to plumbing. All right, let's check for clearance on the bag and the wheel. Plenty of clearance. So let's see it touch the ground. okay. All right, I guess good enough. It's gonna have to be. I'm pretty content with that based on what happened with the driver's side. So I'm gonna leave that as like final product, final height, whatever. All right, so now on to plumbing. So I need to get an air to these bags, and I can't really tell where's the best place. What I need to do is take the bumper off, take both fenders off, and see if there's somewhere in the firewall that I can run air through to get to the bags. And I need to install those leader lines on the bags, and maybe just generally tighten things up, because I kind of was using this as a proof of concept, so I'll tighten up various bolts and whatnot as I see them. I think that's what I'll do now, is start taking this apart to try to figure out how to get air from the management to the bags, and kind of start tightening this up. It's starting to be sort of like the final stretch here, I think, so that's cool. This may or may not be interesting. I've relocated all the relays and fuse panel bullshit to behind the fender here. They all run through the rain tray and get tucked back here. It's just the regular wiring harness is not in here, and it's all hidden in the fenders. Not the prettiest possible thing, but it works, and you know, nobody's gonna see it, so it's fine. Here you can see where I tucked the battery. So the battery's just this little thing, and it just sits behind here. All the dapper headlight bullshit. Various relays. I'll put it with my other broken Civic. I'm struggling a little bit with the leader lines. I've got these leader lines, but they're too long for what I'm doing because they connect to the bag here, and then I have so much excess that it's all in the axle and all the tie rod and everything else. And then I'm not really sure where to go. Kind of like in here. So you can see it's all in the brake line. I think it's making contact with the axle here too. We're pretty close to it. It might be all right, but risky. It's just too much. So I'm gonna get a shorter one. And I like the idea of going in here, but I'm having a hard time figuring out where is that in the car. I think it's up behind the blower motor here. I'm thinking about taking this out to be able to get behind it. I'm suspecting I can drill a hole here and find it on the inside, but I'll take the blower motor out and confirm that so I don't just drill into something at random. And I'm gonna have to order stuff anyway. So a little delay, but still progress.
The next day.
The more I'm looking at it, the more I'm leaning towards going through here and coming down with a 90 and a shorter leader line. Just need to figure out where this is on the passenger side. I'm not really sure. I do think I figured that out on the driver's side. Same kind of deal. I've got a plate right there. I'm just gonna go right through it with a 90. But this side I can actually see a little bit, which is really helpful. Right there next to those brake lines is the same spot. So as long as I don't hit the brake lines going through, I should be all right. I'm gonna go with a small drill bit first and just see if I can locate it. All right, I've run a test hole in through the firewall here with just a very small bit. That's kind of what's over there. Very cautiously as well. Make sure I don't puncture anything. And let's see if I can find it. That's it. So nothing around it. Pretty clear spot. I'm gonna use that as the spot on the driver's side. Use larger and larger drill bits until I get up to this Bertha style thing. And once I get up that big, run one of these bulkhead fitting deals through it, just like that. Ooh. I have cutting oil, so I might as well use it. Just put a little bit on this bit here. All I'm doing is going slow. A little bit of pressure, but really just letting the bit do the work. I don't have much of a step between these two, so hopefully this is not too crazy. This actually won't fit in this drill. All right, so let's try my step bit here. And this is the size I need to be able to go through there, so we'll just step it larger until it fits. See if that's the size. Nope, bigger. Next step. One more, I think, right? make sure there's nothing to hurt your hands. And that's how that's gonna sit through there, just like that. So then I'll put this nut on the other side. I think I'll have to have some help in order to tighten this on there. I don't think I'll be able to do both sides at the same time. And that's the driver's side for the wheel well. All right, feeling pretty good about that, feeling pretty motivated. So here's the manifold that I've made. It's got 4 switches, 1 for each corner. It has a supply line from the tank, and the supply line breaks off and feeds all of the valves. Each one of the valves gets a line out and goes to a corner. So this is the left, so this needs to make it over to the push connect that I just put on. So here is some fucking airline, dickhead. You fuckers. Here's enough to do whatever it is I need. And 1/4-inch elbows, 2 of them. Should be all I need, I think. Not that much. So flip that around, about like that. This is gonna be the left. That'll go right on there like that. This line will connect up in there to that bulkhead. I can't really see, but I know what I want to happen, and so I'm just doing that. All right, there's push, and it is connected. All right, now see if we can't find a good route. This airline up and over and down like that. That's the length I want there, so I'm gonna cut that there and turn that, and that'll be my solution on the driver's side. Pretty content with that. And then need to figure out the bulkhead on this side. Second bulkhead I had has gone missing, so that's making me feel a little crazy. And it's been a long day, so I think I'm gonna call it here. I've ordered another bulkhead because I can't find that one. Some more 90-degree elbow push to connects, 2 shorter leader lines, and I think that's it. But yeah, that's a solid day.
Several long days later.
Looking at final assembly here on the bag setup. Got some shorter braided lines. This side has a swivel, this does not, so that's why it's got to come back apart. And so I'm just going to complete the final assembly of these front bags. I'm using a little bit of red sealant on here, something like that. No leaks. All right. Seems fine. It's pretty much just going to glue in there. I'll just keep on moving. What I found was that moving the bag lower on this really didn't help with getting lower height. And so if I keep it at the original spot, then I can keep the pressure lower in the bag. All right, it's looking pretty even. Basically, I just have this top hat just so it's barely touching. And that should be pretty close to what I want. So I'm gonna lock these down. All right, so now just get the top hats on for the last time. I'm gonna go a little bit of thread locker blue. Coming down evenly with these. And do the same with this one. Same deal. Okay, I should be able to put these on as well. They'll just go around the bottoms of these to hold the brake lines. All right, there they are. Final assembly. I've got the lines on, I've got the brake brackets on, the height is right. I've lost one of these sleeves, so I'm not gonna use those. I don't think I need them anyway. It just means I'm gonna have to thread these down further, but that's gonna be fine. Yeah, keep it moving. Here I am mocking up the strut in the wheel arch here. This is where my fitting is going to come through, just trying to make sure it's not going to impact the bag, and this will go up and connect to that like that. So I just need to get some sealant on these fittings to make sure they're not going to leak. Get this threaded in, and get some installation on this side. Pipe sealant this bad boy up. Okay, good enough. that seems okay. So there you go. I've got a bulkhead fitting coming through, a 90 swivel braided, goes over to the back of my bag, and then everything's tight. This is ready to get the fender put back on and a wheel, and I need to figure out that other side. The passenger side, I know I want to go through in the same place, but there's all this HVAC bullshit in the way. I'm gonna spend a little time taking some of this shit apart. If I can get some of this forward enough, I can at least see the firewall. So I'll start taking that apart. All right, so there's some disassembly. You can see the firewall. Now I'll send a small bit through first to see where does it go, make sure I don't hit those brake lines. How did I do? Looks like south of the brake lines to me. All right, that's enough to get the step bit on it. Yeah. Ready for this to go through, something like that. I'm gonna have to have somebody help me tighten this side. Check back after I've done that. All right, got the bulkhead fitting on, 90 leader line, everything's glued. Bolts are tight, brake line's on. I put these on without the collar things, the little extender things, because I couldn't find the other one. And in here is the bulkhead fitting coming through, and there's a push to connect. All right, so this goes in here about that much. It should be enough to make that turn. So maybe I'll come through the sound deadening material and then just drop right down behind this AC thing. That's how I'll get over there. So it's basically right here. Making a hole. Something like that. It's a little uglier than I wanted, but luckily nobody's gonna see it. Right there. Now connect my line. All right, so bring this up. Feed my line over behind the drain, just to hold things in place. Put these together, you know, something like that. Let the seals dry and put this thing on the ground tomorrow and see if those seals are sealed, and if they are, I'll put this stuff back together, put the fenders on, put the bumper back on, all that shit. And she's friggin' drive this thing for the first time in months. I sure hope. We'll see. All right, it's tomorrow, so I'm pretty excited to see how this has done, if the lines work or whatever. It's gonna test clearance. It looks like it should be fine. Air line's behind the brake line. Same kind of deal. If this is clear, then that should almost definitely be clear. So I'm gonna put the wheels on and set it down and then test for pressure and see if I have any leaks. Been a little while since I've even played with this thing, so let's take a look at what's going on with the tank. 40 pounds, not enough to do anything. So let's run the compressor. Hidden in there. Watch the pressure come up. I don't really need a ton of pressure. We'll turn that off and see if this works. Did it work? I think so. In that case, I'm excited to finally see this thing without any blocks underneath and get a look at what my actual height is. Get a feel for it. And let's see it air out finally. So I'll pop the wheels off and make sure those fittings aren't leaking. So I've got my soapy water here and I've sprayed it on and I'm not seeing any leaks. I've got pressure on my bags. I've tried both sides, so I'm sealed. And now all I have to do is put this thing back together and be done with it. Just carefully put it all back together. This one I shortened because the battery's behind this. Okay. Got to tighten these, tighten them down, and then put the wheels on. And I'm gonna cut the mud guards so they can fit. All right, now I'll get someone to help me hold the brakes and tighten those spacers on.
Later that same evening.
Well, it seems to be going okay. My axle clunking noises are gone, so the axle swap is has worked. I'm aired up and I'm cruising down the street, so all seems to be well so far. See how it goes, but yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it. So if you hung around for this one, this is a long one, I definitely appreciate it, and thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.